Yesterday, we spent some time talking about the Chiefs' offensive players that could be traded. So, if you missed that video, it is still up on the channel. You will notice if you've been here for a while, I did end up having to delete basically my entire catalog, but my entire library here. But today, we're going to talk about the defensive players that could find themselves on the business end of a trade this preseason. And here's where it starts to get kind of interesting because the Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 consecutive Super Bowls. They are ostensibly the favorite to win a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl. But if you look through these names of tradable players, there's not basically any marquee fame, ability, or otherwise sort of usefulness behind these trades, right? There are no big name, very productive players deep on the Chiefs' depth chart, and I think that's for 2 reasons. There's no obvious names to trade because, number one, the Kansas City Chiefs are still a pretty young team. Brett Veach keeps cycling talent. He doesn't keep guys on the roster too terribly long. He does not sign aging veterans just to have depth. He will draft. He will sign UDFA. He even makes an occasional trade for a younger guy, normally within the rookie contract, where your scouting notes from college are still valid, right? Neil Farrell probably meets those parameters. Brett Veach still had his notes from Neil Farrell's college days, decided, hey, you guys aren't using him. You want a draft pick? And it hasn't worked out. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are having a very difficult time acquiring defensive tackle talent. So it may be confusing to see 2 defensive tackles on the trade list here. But so that's the number one reason. The number 2 reason, the Chiefs, though they've had quite a few draft picks the last few seasons, stocking up and things like that, they're not very high draft picks. The Chiefs are constantly drafting 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd, and that's not just in the first round, it's in every round. So it's difficult to build a ton of depth, especially marquee depth, in that way. But we start this list with cornerbacks, Joshua Williams or Jaylen Watson. I say or because what's going to happen here is you're going to have somebody emerge as the number 2 cornerback. I believe it is going to be one of these 2 players. If it is not one of these 2 players, then absolutely we could see a trade for one of these players, if not both. The interesting thing to be noted here is this. The Kansas City Chiefs keep acquiring cornerback talent. I'm going to read the list of listed cornerbacks on the roster. And I say listed because the Kansas City Chiefs designate cornerback, defensive back, and safety on their official roster. Miles Battle, Echo Boydo, Nick Jones, Kelvin Joseph, Trent McDuffie, DJ Miller, Christian Roland Wallace, Keith Taylor, Jaylen Watson, and Joshua Williams. That's a lot of names. Defensive backs, Deon Bush, Chamari Connor, Kamal Haddon, Jaden Hicks. I'm not even talking about the safeties here. So, if, for example, all of a sudden Nick Jones looks like an absolute killer this preseason, and he takes your number 3 cornerback role. You've got Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams wins the number 2 spot, comes out, and Nick Jones looks like an absolute killer. Then you have obviously Chamari Connor, who is a hybrid defensive back kind of guy. Well, you've got 4 cornerbacks right there. Jaylen Watson has proven he can play in the NFL, as has Joshua Williams. So if you flip those names, yada, yada. But how should I say it? These players were both drafted in the same draft. So they are on the same rookie contract clock, making it unlikely that Brett Veach retains both of them at the end of this rookie contract. They are halfway through that rookie deal. If someone likes Joshua Williams or Jalen Watson and they end up as the number 3 or 4 corner as opposed to the number 2 guy, well, probably if they end up as the number 4 guy is what you're looking at. Then what you have is an opportunity to trade the opposite of these corners, and you talk that up by saying, look, you're getting this guy. Both of these are tall, long corners who have extensive experience in the NFL, extensive experience in the playoffs, and you're selling this to your fan base. You have a rookie deal here, and these are good players. I get something in return. These are the 2 players on the roster, or on the list of names here, that I don't think you're just nitpicking for 7th round picks and things like that. These 2 players could net you a valuable draft pick in return. Not a 1st round, not a 2nd round, not a 3rd round. Could be a 4th round if you were willing to throw in a draft pick as well. So if the Chiefs are trading Jalen Watson and a 6th round pick, they could get a 4th back, etc. But I like both of these players. I really like Joshua Williams, and I really, really like Jalen Watson. I think Jalen Watson is a starting cornerback in the NFL. It's difficult to imagine both of these players playing out their rookie contracts unless they are head and shoulders above everyone else and are the number 2 and number 3 corners on this roster. The next name here, Nazeeh Johnson. This is a difficult one because Nazeeh Johnson had an injury last season. Nazeeh Johnson did not prove much in his rookie season. He played a lot of special teams, but didn't do any. I don't believe he had a single defensive rep. I might be wrong about that, and if he did, I'm 99% positive it was fewer than 20 defensive reps. He really started to come on last training camp prior to his injury. The difficult part about that is he really started to come on as a cornerback. Now, he's got decent size. He has extremely good bounce. I think he had a 42-inch vertical, and he is a guy that, so it's almost, the way you almost want to say it is he moves like a basketball player. Like when a basketball player who has an incredible leaping ability is running, you see that in every step he takes. So I think he's got the potential to really be on the field and contribute. But again, now you have Nick Jones, who is younger than him, or I don't know about younger than him. Nick Jones is 22. Sorry about this. I did not prepare to talk about this part. Where is he? Anyway, he's a year less into his rookie deal. You have Chamari Connor, who the Chiefs really like, a year less into his rookie deal. Kamal Hadden will be starting 2 years less into his rookie deal. So you have a whole lot of players who are on longer contracts. Now, Nazeeh Johnson is 25. So he's entering his 3rd season. He's 25. He's a little bit older than Brett Veach likes to acquire talent, but it did not enter the league as such. So when you're looking at Nazeeh Johnson, what would have to happen is that he would absolutely have to show out in preseason games to be tradable, because he has no footage of him playing in the NFL other than on special teams. He has sort of the same type of profile as someone like Deon Bush. You don't really see him playing defense, you see him playing special teams. So you don't really trade for Deon Bush, right? Normally you just pick those guys up as free agents. So if he does come on in the preseason, you've just got so many defensive backs. The younger guys, you want to keep them because they're younger, plus the fact that you have control over their contracts for longer, plus the fact that they're not going to have anyone. It's difficult to find a market for a guy who has a single year in the league, but that's kind of what Najee Johnson is. At defensive end, Malik Herring. Malik Herring and Najee Johnson, you're not looking at much if you're going to trade them. You are looking at probably player swaps. You are looking at probably moving up and at this point, you don't know where you're going to be drafting, right? So you are looking at, I will trade you my 5th round pick and Malik Herring for your 4th round pick. Whatever that ends up being, that's what you're doing. And it might not even be 5th and 4th round picks. There's not a whole lot. Malik Herring is a good depth guy. Malik Herring is a good middle reliever. He's going to come in and he's going to eat up snaps, and you're going to be able to trust him on the field. Hopefully, Najee Johnson is that kind of guy too. What has to happen for Malik Herring to get there is that the Kansas City Chiefs have to have someone else emerge. FAU didn't emerge as a rookie. He has the tools, in my opinion, to be Mike Danna. Mike Danna is a Chief, re-signed, so you've got 2 there. You've got George Karlaftis, obviously a starter. You have Charles Omenihu, but Charles Omenihu isn't going to be back for, I don't know, maybe 8 weeks. I'm a firm believer in Truman Jones. I don't know what the story is with B.J. Thompson. We haven't had, as far as I know, we haven't had any word from the Kansas City Chiefs about B.J. Thompson. It is difficult for me to believe that B.J. Thompson is going to be an active member of the Kansas City Chiefs during the 2024 NFL season. If nothing else, I think that he would be on the NFI list, non-football injury list, for a year, basically to redshirt while they get things figured out. Maybe I'm wrong, but I cannot imagine that situation. So, Malik Herring being a decent eater of reps, right? And that's not an insult. This is a decent eater of reps at the NFL level. I think if someone else emerges, Malik Herring finds himself 26 years old. Truman Jones is just 24. There's not really a whole lot to emerge. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is still 22 years old, but if FAU is showing out in camp, which is possible he will, and Mike Danna looks as good as he ever has, Truman Jones looks like he could be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, when you're crunching those numbers, there's no upside to Malik Herring. I hate to say it like that, but football is a brutal business. The probably biggest selling point to Malik Herring is he is your second biggest defensive end. He is 275 pounds. But I will say that he does not feel particularly like a run-stuffing defensive end. I think he's actually better against the pass. The next name on the list is Tershawn Wharton, and we're going to talk about Tershawn Wharton and Matt Dickerson at the same time. The Kansas City Chiefs are not deep at defensive tackle. In my opinion, that makes them likely to keep trying to add at defensive tackle. Now, Chris Jones, obviously an NFL talent. Derek Nottie, in my opinion, a good number 3 defensive tackle, not a great number 2 defensive tackle, but he finds himself as your number 2 defensive tackle. Mike Pennell, an absolute stud in the Super Bowl, probably not a guy that you want to rely on for a lot of reps during the regular season. After that, you have Tershawn Wharton, who has looked good and absolutely has been better than we had any right for him to look coming out of Missouri Culinary Institute. But in my opinion, he's never particularly progressed. Now, never progressed from what? From being a solid rotation defensive tackle. That is sort of the same type of guy that you have in Matt Dickerson. I think the Chiefs are likely to keep trying to add talent at defensive tackle. The Chiefs recently opened up a roster spot. The Chiefs, I don't know what the verdict is on B.J. Thompson. It is possible that if he moves to the NFI list, maybe they have to do that at the start of camp. I don't know. I don't know if there's a reason they haven't done it yet. Maybe it's that he's not going. Maybe it's that he's going to be cleared. Maybe that this is not the time of the season to do it. I think it's possible you were opening up 2 different roster spots for the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably, in my opinion, at least one of them is used on defensive tackle. It's possible they end up bringing somebody who is sort of at the same level as Tershawn Wharton and Matt Dickerson, maybe slightly better. If that is the case, Tershawn Wharton and Matt Dickerson are absolutely NFL talents. It is difficult to imagine a scenario in which someone decides that they need to trade for Tershawn Wharton or Matt Dickerson. But you're Brett Veach. All you have to do is sweeten the deal. All you have to do is say, I am trading you Tershawn Wharton and my 7th for your 7th. Doesn't sound like a big deal. Doesn't sound like a particularly large move. What it does is, you're the Kansas City Chiefs. You know your 7th round pick is likely to be 32nd, 31st, 30th overall. If I talk to the Chicago Bears, who are picking maybe 10th next year, it's a good number for them, right? If they are picking 10th next year, all of a sudden, you are picking 20 spots earlier, 21, 22 spots earlier. And that can be the difference between, like we said in the last video, being able to draft Isaiah Pacheco and Isaiah Pacheco being gone. So it can be a big deal. Now, this last name here. Something that's easier to see on the offensive side of the ball is positional value. If you have a tradable quarterback, you're going to get something for him. I still don't understand the Justin Fields situation, so don't throw that in my face. But outside of trying to trade Justin Fields, when you have a quarterback that can play in the National Football League, someone's going to give you something for them. That's the number 1 spot. The number 2 spot on offense is offensive tackle who can start. Offensive tackles are the number 2 most valuable spot on the offense, in my opinion. Number 3 would be a guy who's an offensive tackle but can play offensive guard. Because probably you're not the greatest offensive tackle if you're allowed to play offensive guard. So you're talking about a swing tackle type guy. Third, and this is assuming everyone has the same quote-unquote Madden rating, right? If you're trading an 85 overall quarterback, you're getting the biggest haul. If you're trading an 85 tackle, you're getting the second biggest haul. If you're trading an 85 utility offensive lineman, third biggest haul. Wide receiver comes next, then interior offensive lineman, then running back. Running back notoriously suffered a massive drop-off around the 2010s after the LaDainian Tomlinson sort of era. No one's willing to trade for them. But on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion, edge is number 1, cornerback's number 2, defensive tackle is number 3, safety is number 4. Then you have linebackers, kind of any position. So is it unlikely that you can trade Cam Jones? It's unlikely. But when you look at so I think that he acquitted himself well last season, proving that he can be an NFL player. But I do think that Curtis Jacobs' ceiling is higher. I do think that Jack Cochran has more tools. Leo Chanel is an absolute stud. Nick Bolton is starting. And a stud. I mean, he's hit stick Nick. Then you have Drew Tranquil. So you're looking at 5 linebackers right there that in my opinion, are better than Cam Jones. Cole Christensen has proven to be a special teams guy. That's 6 if he makes the roster. Cam Jones might find himself the odd man out. So, is it likely that you can trade Cam Jones and pick up a second-round pick? No, it's impossible. You're not doing it. It's not happening. I don't care what he does in the preseason. Is it possible that you can trade Cam Jones and pick up a 7th-round pick? Unlikely. Is it possible that you can trade Cam Jones and your 7th for someone else's 7th? It's possible. More likely than not, what Cam Jones would represent, in my opinion, is a player-for-player swap down on the depth chart, down on the positional value. So, what you would see here is Cam Jones being traded for instance, a running back. Someone else who is low on, either someone has a bevy of interior offensive linemen and you like one of them, or you go spot for spot and end up picking up a running back for Cam Jones or something of the sort. But that seems to be the type of way that things work out. That is all I have for defensive possibilities for trade bait here on the channel. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.